Excellencies, delegates, colleagues and guests, on behalf of the Executive Director of UNEP, Ms. Inga Anderson, I wish to extend warm wishes to you for a productive and successful Arctic Circle Assembly meeting, and thanks for the opportunity to say a few words during this important meeting at this time of great change. I want to briefly highlight the triple planetary crises, the interconnected crises of climate change, pollution and waste, and biodiversity and nature loss, and then bring this back to the Arctic, its impacts, feedbacks, and the need for integrated solutions. The state of the global environment is not great. Climate change is having demonstrable impacts. We see rising heat, acidification, sea level rises, shrinking ice and glaciers, and increases in wildfires. Our ocean areas are seriously impacted. Our marine stocks are being exploited or fully exploited or depleted. And 75% of the Earth's land surface has been significantly altered by human actions. We're producing more than 430 million tonnes of plastic waste annually, which is also finding its way into the environment and into ourselves. But there are positive changes as well. We have seen significant declines in persistent organic pollutants thanks to the Stockholm Convention, and of course growing action to restore ecosystems globally. So there is real momentum and clear recognition of the need to act. And all of this underscores the importance of the choices we make today. So as noted, these challenges are directly interconnected, and the drivers of change often reinforce one another. The Arctic is a prime example of where these interconnected issues can be observed, and perhaps more visibly than anywhere else. This audience knows well the Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the global average, and the resulting changes profoundly affect Arctic peoples and ecosystems, and also have cascading consequences for the rest of the world. So we can't deal with these issues as single issues anymore. UNEP's Foresight report last year identified the need for integration of issues because as issues are interconnected, so are the solutions. So what do? We actually work on what we already have. We've got the goals, we've got the actions, we need to implement them. But then we need to connect some more dots, integrate data and knowledge to unlock new insights and co-benefits, and critically to bring in more voices to the table. Stakeholders often have the answers we miss, particularly indigenous peoples who understand the environment far better where they live. And of course, integrating across portfolios mean that we can prioritise particular issues. The Arctic is ideally placed with the working groups, the science, traditional indigenous knowledge, and multi-stakeholder forums to collectively analyse integrated problems for integrated solutions. What gets measured gets managed, and of course by integrating across portfolios, this can aid in what gets done first. The Arctic region fora and stakeholders are ideally placed to integrate, to co-create, and to assess the best solutions that have multiple co-benefits for the region, but also the world. And so the Arctic region can demonstrate this example to the rest of us. I look forward to hearing about the outcomes of the meeting, and I wish you successful discussions. Thank you.
We just heard UN Environment Programme's Chief Scientist, Andrea Hinwood, present the concept of the triple planetary crisis. We all know that there's no place where climate change is happening faster than in the Arctic, but also contaminants accumulate and magnify through the food chain, imposing health concerns locally, and endemic Arctic species are pushed to the outer limits of their existence. Still, the Arctic has been in the forefront of bringing environmental protection to the global agenda, and Arctic science, including indigenous knowledge and local knowledge, has been crucial for establishing regulatory measures through the global conventional frameworks. This has made a difference for all living creatures in the Arctic, including us humans. So can the Arctic again take the lead on bridging gaps that the current climate, pollution, and biodiversity conventions have left open? What can a global society learn from indigenous people's views and understanding of nature? And where do we go from here? To answer this questions, we have an excellent panel with us here today. We have Diana Ürge-Vorsatz, Vice Chair of IPCC, and hence one of the world-leading experts on climate change. We have Dr. Sara Olsvig, International Chair of the Inuit Circumpolar Council, that has been in the forefront for conventions on protecting the livelihood of all peoples living in the Arctic. And also we have Vicki Wallgren, Director of WW Arctic program, one of the most important actors highlighting the loss of biodiversity that we see happening just in front of our eyes. So, addressing Andrea's introduction here, I'll start with you, Diana. I know IPCC is currently working on its next 7th major assessment report on climate change. Can you please say how you see the issue of the triple planetary crisis from your perspective, and what does it mean for your work, and also, I mean, for our work in terms of researching climate change?
Well, thank you very much. First, thank you for this invitation. It's a really special opportunity for us to be here. So, yes, it's really important that even we are working mostly on climate change related problems and solutions, but that we shouldn't see these in isolation. Because as already very eloquently elaborated on by Andrea, there are so many interactions between all of these domains. And it's very easy to just be in our own domain, because already within our domain there are so many interactions that it's already very difficult to capture all of them. But at the same time, we are failing. We cannot do one without the other. We cannot just solve, but we will not be able to solve climate change without actually addressing these other crises as well, and vice versa. They're so interconnected. For example, climate change is affecting the habitat of species, and they are migrating polewards and also up from the sea levels. But at the same time, in the Arctic, this is of course being even more challenging because of the land and sea, and also because we cannot no longer migrate. But vice versa. Nature is one of our most important carbon sinks, both on the land and the oceans. And all of these are very much affected not only by climate change, but also by pollution, for example. So one of the new areas upcoming, which we have not even assessed yet, but I hope we were going to, that's going to be in there, what was already mentioned by Andrea, plastics. Microplastics are interfering with marine life. As a result, they are interfering with the ability of zooplankton and microscopic algae to capture carbon, which is the biggest carbon sink right now. So maybe they're jeopardizing our ability to draw carbon from the atmosphere. At the same time, they also, as they deposit on ice, they exacerbate ice melt. So altogether, there are many, many interactions. There is that new ones that we have to take care of. So what is really important that first there is a lot more research needed, but also a lot more collaboration between many of the activities. There are many assessments going on. But we need, what is really important, we find the synergies, and Andrea mentioned already the Foresight report. That was a really important one, but there are some other UN initiatives that are ongoing to understand the interactions and how we can find the solutions which benefit for all of these areas.
Diana, and I'm going to pick up what you said about connections and collaborations and move to Sara. So, Sara, the Inuit Circumpolar Council and Arctic indigenous peoples have always underlined the need of addressing nature in a non-reductionist or holistic way, as well as being in the forefront on international actions against climate change, against pollution, and biodiversity loss in the Arctic. Could you also say a bit about your views on the triple planetary crisis?
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that we as rights holders are the ones who are at the sort of the end of this process in terms of contaminants ending up in the Arctic. And some decades ago, scientists were surprised to learn that Inuit were among those who have most contaminants in our bodies because we eat the food that is in our region, and the contaminants, long-range environmentally transported contaminants end up in the Arctic. Sometimes we talk about the Arctic as a sink, for example, for plastic pollution, and therefore we were also in Geneva for the plastic treaty negotiations, and we will keep pushing for an ambition treaty that addresses the life cycle of plastics and also the chemicals that are put into plastics. And when we talk about cooperation, these triple planetary crisis issues, they cannot be addressed by one state or one person or two states or two persons. They are global by nature, and they need multilateral systems to be addressed. And this is where we are currently so extremely concerned of the inability of the global society to address these very, very serious issues in a multilateral sense that is ambitious. We are soon going to go to the COP of the Minamata Convention. This is where we see also a global collaboration to prevent mercury contamination or decrease mercury contamination. And there we just saw on the stage an unlikely partnership. We have there maybe an unlikely partnership between the Arctic and the Amazon, because among indigenous peoples in the Amazon is something like artisanal small-scale gold mining, which is one of the biggest polluters in terms of mercury. And of course, in the end, it ends up in our foods in the Arctic. So this, to me, demonstrates how we must work together, and we must ensure that multilateral systems are in function. We have to have those states who are ambitious to actually be it on the ground when they are in the negotiation room and maintain that ambition, be the champions, and again, uphold the rights of indigenous peoples when new instruments are being built. The Minamata Convention is not super strong on the rights of indigenous peoples. We are working on that. The Stockholm Convention does not include PFAS. So we have gaps, and unfortunately, since the Stockholm Convention, it seems like it has stalled a little bit to create these multilateral agreements. So we need to act on these things, and first of all, of course, on climate change, because the triple planetary crisis is enhanced, and the contamination issue is enhanced due to climate change. So I really hope that this is a panel, only 20 minutes to discuss the world's biggest problem. That this will be a start for us to have this on the agenda every year and have indigenous peoples inform states also of the human rights consequences of these contamination issues and climate change issues. Because states can do only so much. We on the ground are also the ones responding to ensure that we have healthy lives also in the future.
Bringing science into action, Vicki, WWF Arctic has been for a very long time engaged in efforts to protect Arctic environments and biodiversity. From your position, how do you see the importance of the triple planetary crisis concept to your work?
So if I start by zooming out, if I may, WWF, we do a report every 2 years called the Living Planet Report, where we look at the health of species, vertebrates, mammals, birds, fish, amphibians, reptiles, et cetera. And over the past 40 years, just a little bit shorter than my lifetime, we can see that the number of populations, the size of populations of all of these vertebrate species have decreased by over 70% globally. And when you look at the global level, what are the main reasons for that huge biodiversity loss, that biodiversity crisis, one of these three that we're talking about? What are the reasons for that? It's habitat loss, it's habitat degradation, largely from food production, right? It's agriculture coming in and taking in spaces. It's overexploitation, whether it's use of forests or whether it's overfishing or whatever. But if we look here into the Arctic, that's not the reasons. That's not what's happening in the Arctic. The Arctic is a very different situation. The Arctic, largely, compared to many places in the world, is actually quite pristine. And the threats that are happening to the Arctic and Arctic biodiversity and nature, it is climate change. It's climate change that is radically changing the ecosystem itself. This is an ecosystem of sea ice, of multi-year sea ice. The whole food web is changing from the phytoplankton all the way up to the top predators. I mean, everybody's been speaking about it. The stresses, the enormous stresses being placed on these species that are specifically evolved to live in this icy world, and it is disappearing. And it's not only that then, it's not only the climate crisis that's affecting the biodiversity, then you have the industrial threats that are coming in, pollution that's coming in through these industrial threats, other anthropomorphic activities, all culminating. I mean, it's horrible to say, but it's almost like the Arctic could be the poster child for this triple planetary crisis. All of these things are exactly what is breaking down and affecting the biodiversity, the ecosystem in the Arctic, and exactly what Sara was saying, and you can see those consequences directly affecting the peoples here in the Arctic. So, I mean, it's it's a horrible thing to have to be a poster child for, but I think that really the Arctic is that.
Thank you. Thank you. Being considerate of the time, and we're going to move to solutions now, and we had 20 minutes to present the problems, now we have 4 minutes to present solutions, so I'll ask you to be very short. So, to all of you, from your perspectives, what would you like to see as the next steps to respond to this crisis? In keywords, what are your poster childs, as you say? And I guess we can start with Diana, please.
Thank you. So I think what's important is that we cannot, even if everything is connected to everything, in the end, we shouldn't wait with the solutions until we solve everything. So what that means is that I think we do need to take step by step. And with the Monday morning 9 a.m. policymaker or decision maker still has only that in front on their desks. So what is important, we keep doing what is in our field, but always keeping all these other challenges and other solutions and interactions in mind. That means we need a lot of dialogue, so keywords, dialogue, a lot more discussion amongst ourselves so that we really take these interactions into our own work into account. And I think another keyword is definitely learn much more from indigenous knowledge, because they have learned much more how to live in harmony with nature, how we can, and there is a lot more to integrate into our present solutions.
Thank you. Sara.
Yes, and I will pick up on that both in terms of UNEP, but also the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is now demonstrating some positive development in terms of the participation of indigenous peoples. We'll go to UNEP 7 in December, where there will be a panel, a formal event on indigenous peoples' knowledge, and the IPCC AR7, the assessment report, the 7th assessment report. We have now also a lead author who is delegated by ICC and nominated by ICC to contribute with the knowledge of indigenous peoples into that work. But much more can be done, and we have to look at the exact structures of both IPCC and UNEP, for example, on how to make this a constant, not just from case to case or report to report, because we have so much to contribute with. We see around the world how indigenous peoples are there at the negotiations, making the results stronger. So that is really something that I hope the institutions, but also the states, will continue to support and champion together with us, because we will only get stronger results from including indigenous knowledge into the solutions.
Thank you. And your poster child, Vicki?
My poster child, yes, exactly. I would love to build on what both Diana and Sara said. I think that we need to, and what Andrea said as well, I think we need to be looking more at the integration across these three crises, and about that dialogue and working together. And here I see that the Arctic can again be a perfect place for this. And in fact, the Arctic Council is almost made for dealing with this, with the different working groups. How can they be working even better together across these and looking at these different parts, right? From AMAP and ACAP and PAIM and CAF and SDWG, really these joint parts. You have in there all of that. How can they work together? You have the indigenous peoples, you have the Arctic states, you have intergovernmental agencies here in the Arctic Council family. You have NGOs like us. You have that all here with that Arctic focus, and being able to bring that together. And like Sara was saying, how can we, through that, bring that integration, learn from that, and be able to contribute that to the rest of the world as well?
Thank you, Vicki. I'm aware we're standing between this and the break, so I think just to conclude, I'll turn back to where we started, and Andrea Hinwood's word, listening to what you said. And what she said about the Arctic is ideally placed to integrate, co-create, and assess the best solutions to the triple planetary crisis that have multiple co-benefits, both for the region, but also for the world. And I guess what I hear from you, it's now up to us all to demonstrate that we are able to live up to those expectations. To us all. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right. Okay. And by that, I would ask you all to join me in an applause for this fantastic panel.